This man was mauled by a grizzly, left for dead, and crawled 200 miles to survive. His name was Hugh Glass, a fur trapper and frontiersman in 1823. While scouting in South Dakota, he was viciously attacked by a mother bear. With a broken leg, shredded back and exposed ribs, his fellow explorers assumed he wouldn't make it. 2 men were paid to stay with him, but they abandoned him, taking his weapons and supplies. Glass didn't die. He crawled, dragged, and limped his way through freezing rivers, rugged terrain, and hostile territory. He survived on wild berries, roots, and even raw animal carcasses, pushing his shattered body mile after mile. 6 weeks later, he made it to safety, driven not just by survival, but by revenge. He tracked down the men who left him behind, but in the end, he forgave them. Hugh Glass didn't just survive the impossible, he came back from the dead, and chose mercy over vengeance. He returned to the frontier, resumed trapping, and reportedly survived a number of attacks by Native American tribes before finally being killed in 1833. His grit became legend, and his story, immortal. This young man walked away from everything, money, comfort, and family, to search for the meaning of life in the wild. His name was Christopher McCandless, born in 1968 in California. After graduating from a top university, he gave away his $24,000 savings to charity, abandoned his car, and vanished into the wilderness under the name Alexander Supertramp. Driven by a deep desire for freedom and purity, he lived off the land, traveling across the American West, canoeing down rivers, sleeping under the stars, and relying on strangers' kindness. In 1992, his journey led him to the Alaskan wilderness, where he sought to live completely off the grid. For months he survived alone in an abandoned bus, hunting, foraging, and writing about peace and solitude. But nature was unforgiving. Weakened by hunger and possibly poisoned by wild seeds, Christopher died there at just 24 years old. Just before his final moments, he wrote that, "Happiness is only real when shared." Do you agree? He was born into a world that doubted him. Charles Young, born in 1864 to formerly enslaved parents in Kentucky, rose from the shadows of slavery to become one of America's first black military officers. Graduating from West Point in 1889, he faced daily abuse, isolation, and open racism from classmates. But he endured, finishing as only the 3rd African American to graduate from the academy. Assigned to the 9th and 10th Cavalry, the famed Buffalo Soldiers, Young led with courage and precision, earning the respect of his men and superiors alike. He served in the Spanish-American War, protected national parks as one of the first black superintendents, and later commanded troops in Mexico and Liberia. Yet, despite his brilliance, prejudice followed him. In 1917, as World War I erupted, he was forced into retirement, declared medically unfit. Refusing defeat, he rode over 500 miles on horseback to Washington, D.C., proving his strength. He died in 1922 while serving in Africa, far from home, but his legacy endures as a symbol of resilience, excellence, and the unyielding fight for dignity. This man was born in 1877 in Kentucky, the son of formerly enslaved parents. With little formal education he taught himself, driven by a restless curiosity for how things worked. As a young man, Garrett Morgan became an inventor, filing patents that would save countless lives. In 1912 he created a safety hood, an early gas mask, and proved its power by rescuing trapped workers from a toxic tunnel in Cleveland. His invention was so effective it became widely used by firefighters and soldiers during World War I, but he didn't stop there. In 1923, Morgan patented a new traffic signal, adding a caution phase that reduced deadly crashes and is still used today. Though he faced racism and often had to sell his patents to white-owned companies, his innovations shaped modern safety. Garrett Morgan was more than an inventor. He was a visionary whose work continues to protect lives every day. She was once called America's richest black girl. Born in 1902 in Oklahoma, Sarah Rector was the daughter of formerly enslaved parents. Like many black children at the time, she was given a parcel of land in Indian Territory through the Dawes Allotment Act. Most of these lands were rocky and poor for farming, seemingly worthless. But beneath Sarah's land was oil. In 1913, when she was just 11 years old, a massive oil well struck her property, producing thousands of barrels a day. Almost overnight, she began earning hundreds of dollars daily, millions in today's money. Her sudden wealth made headlines nationwide. Newspapers called her the richest colored girl in the world. She faced racism, legal battles, and even government scrutiny as white guardians tried to control her fortune. Despite it all, Sarah Rector grew into adulthood, invested wisely, and lived a comfortable life. What began as a poor child's allotment transformed her into one of the most remarkable figures of black wealth in American history. He was just a boy when he left his icy homeland, an Inuit child named Minik Wallace. In 1897, Arctic explorer Robert Peary brought Minik, his father Kisuk, and 4 others from Greenland to New York City, promising them a new life. But soon after their arrival, tragedy struck. The Inuit were exposed to diseases their bodies had never known. Within months, all but Minik were dead, including his father. Minik was taken in by a curator at the American Museum of Natural History, believing Kisuk had been given a proper burial. Years later, he discovered the horrifying truth. His father's skeleton was on public display inside the very museum that had become his home. Heartbroken and betrayed, Minik fought to have his father's remains returned to Greenland. It took decades before his wish was finally fulfilled. Minik's story is one of innocence stolen and humanity forgotten, a chilling reminder of how curiosity can turn cruel when empathy is lost. Was this exploration or exploitation? In 1867, deep in the forests of Uttar Pradesh, India, hunters discovered a boy unlike any other. Around 6 years old, he lived in a cave, not with people, but with wolves. When taken to an orphanage, they named him Dina Sanichar. But he did not behave like a child. He walked on all fours. He howled at night. He tore into raw meat with his teeth. Doctors and caretakers tried to teach him human ways, speech, manners, even clothing. But Dina never truly left the wild behind. He struggled to adapt, and language never came to him. He lived out his days caught between 2 worlds, neither fully wolf nor fully man. In 1895, at just 35 years old, Dina Sanichar died. Some say his story may have inspired the Jungle Book, but the truth of his life remains far more haunting. Do you think Dina was more wolf or more man? In 1994, this man vanished into one of the harshest places on Earth, and lived to tell the tale. Italian Mauro Prosperi was running a 6-day ultra-marathon across the Sahara Desert, when a sandstorm blew him wildly off course. He kept running for hours, then days, no food, no water, just heat, sand, silence. To survive, he drank his own urine and sucked moisture from wet wipes. He stumbled upon an abandoned shrine, where he caught and ate bats, raw. At one point, he even tried to end his life, but his body was too dehydrated to bleed. Instead, he pushed forward, alone, disoriented, slowly wasting away. After 9 days in the desert, he was finally found by a nomadic family in Algeria, over 180 miles from where he started. Mauro Prosperi didn't win the race, but he outran death. This man was no king, yet he became a symbol of freedom. Born around 1270, William Wallace was a Scottish knight who rose from obscurity to lead a rebellion against English rule. When the English killed his wife, Wallace snapped. Fueled by grief and rage, he gathered an army of farmers, blacksmiths, and commoners, ordinary men who believed in one extraordinary idea: freedom. With crude weapons and fierce determination, he crushed a much larger English force at the Battle of Stirling Bridge in 1297. It wasn't strategy, it was sheer heart. He became a hero to the people, feared by England and beloved in Scotland. But the fight for freedom came at a cost. Wallace was betrayed, captured, and brutally executed. They hanged him, gutted him, and dismembered him, hoping to kill not just the man, but the movement. They failed. William Wallace became a legend. His courage sparked generations of resistance, and his story lives on in Scotland's soul, and on the silver screen as Braveheart. He didn't fight for glory, he fought for something far greater: freedom. Most people don't realize, the Aztecs never actually existed. The people we think of as Aztecs called themselves the Mexica, spelled M-E-X-I-C-A, the very name that gave us Mexico today. They said they came from a legendary homeland called Aztlan. So where did the word Aztec come from? Not from them, but from 19th century anthropologists. About 150 years ago, scholars in elite universities decided Mexica was too confusing. They wanted to clearly separate pre-Columbian Mexico from the Mexico that existed after Spanish conquest. So they borrowed the name of that mythical homeland, Aztlan, and turned it into Aztec. It was never their own name. It was an academic label, invented centuries later, that stuck in our history books. And here's the twist. This name was popularized in English long before it became common in Mexico itself. In fact, if you went back in time and called a Mexica Aztec, they'd have no idea who you were talking about. The people themselves? They were Mexica, and they never called themselves anything else. Which story surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments.